Well, I want to thank you for joining me. I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to just, listen to this junk, talk off the top of my head without impromptu, without much preparation. Here I have my two novels, which I've published, Unequivocal Malice, by either, you can look it up, Michael Kajowski, my name, or Michael Parker, my pseudonym 20 years ago, or After Dark from booklocker.com by Michael Kajowski. The first one, Unequivocal Malice, was originally at iuniverse.com, and this second one, approximately 10 years later, also 10 years ago from now, 2025, was under my regular name, Michael Kajowski. Those, by the way, in case you can't see them, are pine needles. And, one of the things about, publishing novels, you have a chance to, hold a sort of mental conversation, emotional, with yourself or with other people. Here's another book I just happen to have in my car here. This one is called A Light in the Void by Poul Anderson, I believe his name is. I probably mispronounced it. It's probably Paul Anderson. And of course, these things, in addition to giving you some starting points for holding oral conversations with people, they also have little nuggets of wisdom in them and literature. Here he says on page 150 here, and he says, it seemed to him that the soul of a people must come from the landscape that form their bones and flesh and thoughts, as he's talking about describing the physical surroundings where he is bordered by wastes of rock and sand, as he's describing the physical landscape around him, that character in the Poul Anderson old novel from a used bookstore, A Light in the Void. So I will toss that one over there in my bucket. But getting back to these, there is a 10-year time frames here where After Dark was approximately 10 years ago from this year, 2025, and Unequivocal Malice was approximately 21 years ago. So, you know, I've mentioned people ask me questions because I've been discussing this stuff. This, by the way, I'm calling this Unequivocal Malice Part 7 at TikTok and YouTube. People, I think, watch it mostly at TikTok. And, but, um, books, if they're not huge, popular bestsellers, are things that you can put on your shelves in your living room or bedroom like pieces of furniture, small furniture and knickknacks and stuff. And they're ways of coming up with conversational dialogue in case you happen to be doing some kind of employment or some kind of work in public relations, marketing, sales, retailing, whatever. Many dozens give you ideas and that you can use. So I mentioned in these previous part 6 and so on that the middle of my first novel here, Unequivocal Malice, goes back into the past, and where it says I headlined all the middle chapters, the past, and I discussing some of these characters when they existed in the 1970s. And finally, the last chapters are rounding up the main suspect, which I call Finding the Killer, chapters 28 through 45, and the epilogue. So I was, browsing through here, and it just gives you a chance to, you start reading the first topic sentences of paragraphs Deputy Bolton knocked on Weaver's office door. After Weaver greeted him, he slid into an office chair across from Weaver's desk. Bolton told Weaver he was following up on rumors of two missing persons, Jenkins and Stonehill. He wasn't sure if they held a connection to the Kirchner death. That's the homicide these characters are all investigating in this fictional plot. He wasn't even sure if Jenkins and Stonehill were actually missing. Weaver was the type of sheriff who didn't know if brainstorming, or is that called barnstorming? I often screw words up as I have a sort of a inferior vocabulary, a little smaller than a normal person's, was always useful. For the time being, he sought Bolton's opinion. I'm going out on a limb, Bolton admitted. He's a deputy. I don't think Purnell's our guy. He's not a good suspect. I have mentioned that before, that if I'm given a skills abilities test, I don't have a gift for anything, but I do score a 90 on the creative writing component of the English language. And overall in English, I'm at 87, which is above the average zone of 75 to 83. Now, I was watching a famous author on YouTube last night, which is partly what prompted this here today, the following day, and he mentioned that he worked as a school teacher, and so I'm a little different. I have taught English in China and South Korea, and in fact, that's the question I get asked the most: what was China like? Even though there's, millions of Americans who have connections to Asia. So I do answer that on the internet. If you look up on TikTok and YouTube, I have long videos answering that question: what was China like? What was South Korea like when I taught English over there? And this author was saying that he had a teaching license in the U.S. He started off as a teacher, a famous bestseller, and he wrote a little novelette or novella that got the attention of movie studios. So his books, his initial ones, unlike most people, unlike 99% of the human race, his initial books really took off in terms of commercial sales, because they were connected to movies and to the popular entertainment media, which these two are more coffee table pieces, bookshelf pieces, conversational pieces like, at your house, Unequivocal, Malice, or After Dark. I am sorry about that loud title there, Unequivocal Malice. That was my first attempt at a novel, and so being my first attempt, I was not real adept at giving it a label or a name. So rather than calling it like now, which I can in the future, calling it Malice After Dark, I came up with the word unequivocal. Actually, there's not so much violence in here. It's mostly, like I said, a coffee table piece, something with the characters are mostly talking about it in here. I don't believe I have enough action in here. So if I were to have the opportunity to be paid to rewrite it as a script, I would have to erase the deadwood. For a script, I would have to go ahead with more action to be filmed. I have the same concern with After Dark. Neither of these were popular bestsellers, but, for me, they were quite an accomplishment to put together any book. These are hundreds of pages. So I do have two of them. You can look them up on the internet under Michael Kujawski. People have complained they don't always like it when I'm trying to sell stuff. Unfortunately, many of my male and female relatives were small shopkeepers and have worked in sales. So that's a little what leads to that. Selling shades out of a shade shop, or operating a small apartment complex, or selling automobiles. Well, I reached the 10-minute deadline here on this edition for TikTok.